Hi, I'm Lisa Michaels, and welcome to another edition of Accountability, live with Lisa Michaels. And this is a message I'm doing exclusively for the people on the West Coast, but predominantly for my fellow compatriots. I lived in Oregon for 22 years, lived in California for 8, and spent a lot of time going back and forth up to Washington, since it's just across the river from Portland. And this is specifically for Washington State and Oregon. You have a flawed, rigged system for electing people. This is why you have, it's not because there are that many crazy nut jobs liberals there. And there are a lot, don't get me wrong. But that's not the reason. The reason is because they fix the elections. When we voted, I voted for it too, back in 1998 to go all vote by mail, we actually went all vote by mail fraud. So essentially what happens is over the 3 weeks leading up to the election, when you get your ballot in the mail about 3 weeks before the election day, they watch and monitor how many legitimate people send in their ballots. Then they have a whole cachet of ineligible, illegitimate registered voters that they simply fill out the ballots, sign them the same way they signed them when they illegitimately registered those illegitimate voters, and they rig the election. They just funnel in as many. So say 100,000, just keep it a round number, say 100,000 people voted that they know are legit, and they put in maybe 50,000, making sure that all 50,000 of them vote the way they want them to vote. That's part of it, but I don't believe it's all of it. I believe that they write the election after the election. So they have on election night, which is why Dudley lost. He was winning on the election night, but then the next day he lost because they have a tally machine that tallies up all the ballots. And so they rig the tally machine to give the Democrats the majority of the vote. And then but the next 3 weeks after the election, they make sure that they have the requisite number of ballots filled out to match the bogus tally that they generated to you on election night. I know I'm getting in the weeds. I hope this isn't too boring for you. But bottom line is, this is why it's frustrating. This is one of the main reasons why I moved out of Oregon and moved to Kansas, because I went to college here, and a lot of reasons, but that was one of the reasons. I couldn't continue to live in a state where I knew my vote never would count. At least not count in comparison to all the other legitimate adult U.S. citizens that should be allowed to vote. My vote was being canceled out, as yours is, by people that don't exist. Dogs, cats, long dead relatives, underage children, cartoon characters, illegal aliens, people that are voting in perpetuity from their college fraternity, sorority, or boarding house, dorm, whatever. And for all intents and purposes, I haven't checked, but I might still be voting in Beaverton, unbeknownst to myself, because I'm not the one actually generating the ballot, because there's no test. The only test is to verify your signature. And if a person wanted to fraudulently register their dog or cat, they would sign it the same way they're going to sign the back of the envelope when their ballot for their dog or cat arrives in the mail. So that's no check of anything. All these court cases telling you that you shouldn't have to show your picture ID when you vote, those are all there in order to make sure that they continue to be able to fix the vote with fraudulent entities voting and canceling out your vote. So I've been thinking about it long and hard, and here's what I've come up with. If a candidate gets more write-in, if there's enough write-in votes, more write-in votes than there are votes for the person who's on the ballot. Like, for instance, Earl Blumenauer. I've managed 2 campaigns for candidates that tried to take him on. The traditional way, by winning their party nomination and then running a good solid campaign and everything else. Delia Lopez ran against Earl Blumenauer, and James Buechel. James L. as in Lawrence, I think his middle name is. Anyway, Buell. And both of them lost, of course, and by the same percentage. While we have a candidate in Earl Blumenauer who is possibly one of the most corrupt politicians out there. The man has absolutely never, ever had a real job. He was one of the ones who spearheaded the let's let the 18-year-olds vote way back in the 70s, and then he's been in elected office ever since he got out of law school. So he's never, ever had a real job. Yet. This is why I believe he's the most corrupt, or one of the most corrupt. He's a multimillionaire. How do you become a multimillionaire on the public's, serving the public as a public official, as an elected official, unless you're corrupt? Same thing with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's definitely corrupt. I don't think there's anything, I can't find any redeemable thing that the woman's ever done or accomplished. Anybody who is stupid enough to vote for that woman is, needs to have their head examined. Really does need to have their head examined. Now, I represent her primary constituency. I am divorced. I like to think upper middle class, educated, went to college, got a college degree, and I am vehemently opposed to Hillary Clinton. I'm very much in support of Donald Trump. Donald Trump makes me feel safe. Donald Trump makes me feel like somebody's going to finally do something, and somebody is standing up to the corruption that has placed all these corrupt elected officials into office over all these years. That became crystal clear to me during this Republican primary. I, as you may know, I was a very big supporter of the Bush family, as actually had the opportunity to meet both Presidents Bush, Laura Bush. Seemed like a great family. I've gotten letters from them. I was invited to the inaugural ball, all those sorts of things. But their true colors have been exposed. Their true colors have been exposed. If they had any integrity, then Jeb would have fulfilled his promise and supported the Republican nominee. Not only did they not fulfill his obligation, his father has gone out and said he's going to support Hillary. And it's no wonder. George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush have been good buddies with the Clintons for years now. And they're all answering to the same crooked globalist, Illuminati, Bilderberg, whatever, trilateral group, Council on Foreign Relations, whoever it is, these big mucks, and most of them are not even from the United States, as I understand it. And they are destroying our country. This has been purposeful. In any case, bottom line is, we got to do something about it. Let's get practical. It's election time. I don't know if you've gotten your ballot yet. If you have, you shouldn't. If you haven't, you should soon. In Oregon and in Washington, okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you, if you live in Oregon, I want you to write in the name James Buchel, B-U-C-H-A-L. James L, might as well be on the safe side, make sure nobody questions it. Put in James L. Buchel, B-U-C-H-A-L, for definitely against Earl Blumenauer for Congress. Write him in. And if you'd like to, write him in for every one of the judge positions. If there's any judges that are open on your ballot, write in James Buchel. Don't vote for the person who's the only person. If he's unopposed, write in James Buchel. But if there's a Republican, do not write his name in. But if there is not a Republican running against a candidate in your area, whatever the race, write in James Buchel. Because here's the deal. If they get more write-ins, like I said, than they have votes for the person who's actually printed on the ballot, then they must, that county elections in the entire district where that is, must take out the ballots and hand count them to see if there are more ballots for one particular candidate that's been written in than there are for anybody else. Okay? So that could help expose the voter fraud. Because in most of these races, they don't worry about making sure that tallies come out right for, I wouldn't think, maybe they do, I don't know, we'll see. I mean, it's something to try, basically. But I don't know that there's going to be this intense scrutiny put on Earl Blumenauer's seat because he's the only person running. So they're just going to assume he's going to win that and go on and go fixing other races like the governor, Secretary of State, and, those other contested races. And so write him in, James Buchel, James L. as in light. See the light. L. Buchel, Buchal. And that's in Oregon. Now, if you live in the state of Washington, there's a wonderful guy. I actually got to meet him when I was running James Buchel's campaign for Attorney General. And his name is Clint Didier, Didier. Now, you might remember him from Super Bowl fame. He's an NFL football player, and I believe I can't remember what team he played for, but anyway, he went to the Super Bowl 3 times, apparently. And a very nice guy, super nice. He's a farmer, good salt-of-the-earth guy. And the nice thing about it is he has run in the last 3 previous elections. Of course, the riggers in the state of Washington have rigged the elections so that he has lost all 3 times. But he's got great name recognition. And the key to this strategy is you can't be writing in just Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, or somebody like that. We all have to write in the same name. So I've just picked these 2 names. They're both solid men, and they'll do a great job in whatever race they might possibly get written in for. But it's not going to work unless all of you that see this and pass this video on to all your friends in either Oregon or Washington and tell them, in Oregon, write in James Buchel, James L. Buchel. In Washington State, write in Clint Didier. I even talked to Clint. I hope he's okay with this. But I'm assuming since he ran for office 3 times that he'd be quite happy to be elected as something, especially if he doesn't have to put out much effort. And James Buchel's not declaring him. I'm just forcing the issue because we got to have a name, and I'm sure he'd be happy to run it. I mean, to serve valiantly. He is James Buchel is an attorney. He graduated from Harvard, undergrad in astrophysics. While he was on the debate team, one of the top debaters. Then he went on to Yale and earned both of them at the same time, his law degree and his MBA at the same time. He's off the charts, brilliant, like off the charts. But yet, he's not corrupt. He's a wonderful, very honest, sincere guy who makes his living taking cases that interest him, and he's very effective. He's passed the bar in all up and down the West Coast, as well as New York. He used to practice in. He's argued cases in front of state Supreme Courts, and on behalf of the gold miners, on behalf of the irrigators, or the Snake River, prevented them from destroying the dam. He's written a book called The Great Salmon Hoax, and so you can check that out, as well as he has been, in recent years, been elected chairman of the Multnomah County Republicans. So, James Buchel, write him in Oregon, and test the system. Let's see if we can force each of the counties to take out the ballots and hand count them, so that they're not just done through the machines. And let's do the same thing in Washington State. Force them to hand recount them. So it's important. Do not write these names in on any race that there is a Republican in the race. If there's not a Republican in the race, unopposed, then you can do it. You cannot. Clint Didier's not an attorney, not a member of the bar, so you can't write his name in for judges. I don't know who to write in for judges in the state of Washington, if they even vote for them. I'm not sure about that law. But make sure you write in for all races that do not have a Republican in the race. Write in the name James L. Buchel. Force them to hand recount all the ballots. Thank you very much for your time. God bless. I'm Lisa Michaels. Join me again for my next show, Accountability Live with Lisa.